What's up, everybody? Good evening, and thank you for joining Shawn Unfiltered for another exclusive interview. Tonight, we're going to be chopping it up with none other than Lauren Melissa, a YouTuber, recent LA transplant. We're going to get to know one another, talk a little bit about her experience now in the YouTube world, a little bit about her background, and any questions that you may have. Please feel free to drop them in the comments, and we will address them. As always, we want to keep it respectful. Lauren's a beautiful young sister. We want to, embrace her and get to know a little bit about her and support her. So, I always like to have great conversations. That is what we do around here. And I'm looking to do that tonight. And again, for anybody that's joining for the first time, this is Shawn Unfiltered, where we have conversations. Sometimes we have deep conversations. Sometimes we just have fun conversations and, chop it up. So that is what we do. So I'm going to bring up our guest, Lauren Melissa, and we will get to know her and dive in. What's up, Lauren?
Hi, how's it going?
It is going great. It is going great. Hello, technical glitches out there, in the beginning, but we work through them as we do, right?
Yeah, that's right. This whole YouTube thing is definitely different for sure.
Cool. So, I was giving everybody a little insight into you. I first got to know you a little bit from watching the Lapeef show. It was a great show. They do panel discussions on different topics, pop culture, social commentary, things like that. And you were a guest panelist on there. So tell me a little bit about how you got on that channel.
Yeah, so it kind of goes back a little bit. So Anton Daniels is he's obviously on the show, but Anton and my brother are, cool. And they go way back. And I was talking to my brother just about my goals, my plans, and he's like, yo, Lauren, like, my brother's super awesome and wanting to connect me with people that he knows. And he was like, my friend is really big into this YouTube world. Like, he got a lot of people. Like, if anything, just hit him up if you have questions. At the time, I was doing lunch with Lauren on my Instagram, and I guess they had a conversation, and Anton just like pulled up on my Instagram, like, and I was shocked. I think if you go to my channel, you can see the show where I was just like, I was planning on calling you, and here you are, right? And so once we were on live, it kind of like, we didn't continue the conversation. The conversation had to get cut short. He was like, I want to continue this because the conversation was actually really interesting. So he invited me on his channel. At the time, it was called After Hours with Anton Daniels, but now it's the Millionaire Morning Show right now. So I was on Anton's channel talking about dating stuff, and he was asking me questions because he thinks that my viewpoints are really interesting. And then next thing I know, it was, hey, are you free? Like, we want you to, be on this panel. So shout out to JR, shout out to Anton, shout out to the whole entire Lapeef network. Yeah, I was a part of the conversations, and that's kind of how it happened. It just having conversations like this. So it happened really organically, actually.
Nice. So you jumped on there, and I don't know if you've ever checked out Little Black Book's YouTube channel, but similarly to you, that's where I got my start. So I got my start kind of just jumping on there by coincidence. He was reviewing one of the shows, Ready to Love, that comes on OWN. Yeah. And I was, just at a space in my time where I was, in my life where I was kind of like, I want to do something more, and I can talk for the, definitely I can talk and chop it up. And I love all things TV. So I was like, oh, let me just dive in and see what this is about. And it kind of just started, my journey started from there. So that's cool.
I love that you like reality TV show, like, because I got introduced to Ready to Love or Ready for Love probably like a few months ago. And then I had to go back and watch because I was kind of late to the party, but I'm glad I like joined the party because it was a really good show. So I don't catch it like real time. I always catch it like 4 days later, 3 days later. But yeah.
Yep. So that started my journey. Yeah, I have had to over the years though kind of reassess what shows I watch, because before I used to watch the Love and Hip Hops, you know, all of them, and then I
Yeah.
was like, what am I doing?
It's so necessary. I stopped watching Love and Hip Hop probably back when Chrissy and Jim Jones was on there. Like I think that was like kind of when I stopped being committed when they left. And then yeah, I'm not really into the Housewives franchise as much. Every now and then I might watch an episode if a clip was released and I'm like, oh, that was interesting. Let me see more context. And so I watch the whole episode. But other than that, I kind of stay away from those type of shows and really get into this whole idea of finding love through a TV show or matchmaking process, or even trying to revive love publicly. I think it's a very interesting concept, and I'm always trying to like figure out what's real, what's fake, and at to a certain extent, I feel like I'm an investigator. To a certain end. So when I'm like invested in the show, I'm doing research, okay? I'm trying to find IGs and Facebooks and all of that stuff because I'm so interested in like what made you go on a TV show and find and search for love. It's just very interesting. Shout out to Anton, he's here.
I see him. I see him. Thank you, Anton. Appreciate you for, you know, taking time out of your busy schedule, you know, and dropping over here and checking us out. So appreciate it. Absolutely. We showing Lauren love. Look at this. We already got the guys. The fellas always watching. Lauren is gorgeous. Yeah, she absolutely is. You know, Lauren, you definitely caught my eye. And there was a couple of ladies that started to transition into the show later on down the line. We had Courtney come through. And then Kay came shortly after that as more of a full-time. And then you came through as well. So, you know, I was like, listen to what you said. I appreciate your approach. You know, some of the ladies have, you know, a stronger opinion, but that opinion came with some force. But I always like the grace that you always showed, you know, when you shared your opinions.
Yeah, I think for me, I kind of have to show grace, right? In a certain way, depending on who you're talking to, I'm young in their eyes, right? Either you too young or you don't have enough experience. And in some cases they're right. But that's kind of like but my channel is about is like this journey toward growth. Like, you know, it's all about growing. You're never really going to be fully arrived at a certain point. And I'm one of those people. I don't make the right decisions. And so you'll notice that when I was on Anton's show, I've said some things like, this is what I believe. You could probably go watch a Lapeef show or whatever else I was on and be asked the same question and my answer would change. It's because, you know, really experiencing, hearing people talk, I'm a very open-minded person. I'm like, okay, that makes sense. I can see where I was just like tripping. So I'm just one of those people that's just like, you know, if I really know, I know, but if I don't, I'm open to hearing other people's perspectives. And that's just how I've been.
Awesome. So what was your experience like at first, just like being on that panel? How did you find it? You know, I'll share a little bit of my experiences is how it is being on panels. How was yours?
It's nerve-wracking, like to the point where like my hands get clammy because okay, I'm the only girl in my family. I have 3 brothers, and like finding my voice was something that I struggled with in terms of like speaking up and like, okay, do you hear me though? Right. And so oftentimes I have trouble articulating what I'm trying to say because I'm like either trying to say it fast or say it loud so that people can like get an understanding or like notice that I'm there. So being on a panel really taught me like, you know, be listen, be slow to be listen and then be slow to respond. Like don't listen to respond, but listen to understand is what I, you know, was trying to say. But that's really what being on the panel really was for me. And it's so many different personalities, right?
Yeah.
So I think it was a shock too because I had never like YouTube is crazy and the chat can get crazy. And so because you're up there and you don't really know, you see what they're saying in the chat and then you're trying to really focus on the conversation, it is hard, right? And people were like, Lauren, you don't talk as much, you quiet, we want to hear more from you. And it's just like, y'all, like I'm trying to like, you know, respond to the questions, and it's just it's a lot to handle and manage, and I still struggle to this day, like even on my own channel, right? Like it's not easy.
Yeah, I find it the same way, in the sense of sometimes it taught me a little patience in the sense of when you have something you want to say, but somebody else is going to say, they're talking. So you kind of have to scale back. Or if you disagree with somebody, then you have to figure out how to navigate that conversation in the right way. And, I definitely have my fair share of mistakes that I've made where I've just kind of like jumped in there because, listen, I'm an opinionated person, and I'm definitely completely unfiltered on my own channel, respectful on somebody else's.
Yes.
But still, it's like when you have something you want to say and the person's like going on and on and on, it's like.
And, it lives forever, right? This is a video. This is on a public platform. Whatever you say lives forever. And so in addition to trying to either debate the debate, like the debate topic, or to articulate your thought, you also want to make sure you say it in a way that nobody can really misconstrue it. People can interpret it how they want, right? You see different clips of reaction videos. I've seen a few reaction videos about me, and so it's like, that's not what I meant to say, or that's, you took it wrong. You don't have control over the narrative after it leaves your mouth, right?
Yeah.
So that is another piece of YouTube that's just, to me, is like, I'm learning in so many ways. What you say, how you say it, how you show up, all of that matters. It's crazy.
Now, this is a comment from Seaway, and she talks about reading the chat. She's another one of the panelists that appears on Little Black Book sometimes. And if you start reading those comments, can you think of like the worst comment you ever saw?
No, I think the comments that stuck with me was just this fact that Lauren don't know what she want. She don't even talk. Oh, and then I think somebody was like, I think they meant to say, am I mute? But they said, am I deaf? But like, because I wasn't saying anything. And so just this, and obviously you got trolls everywhere, but it's just this idea of like, what do y'all want me to do? If I overtalk somebody, I'm showing masculine energy, or she's no longer feminine. But yeah, like I just sit back and listen, and I let people talk. People gonna talk enough to where they're gonna show, they're gonna fall into themselves and maybe look crazy or sound crazy. But I just never have been that person to get all like, it's my turn and you need to listen. Like, it's just never been me.
Yeah, and I think sometimes people may feel like you have to be the loudest voice in the room to get heard, but that's not necessarily the case. Sometimes the loudest voice is easier to ignore, right? So I think being who you are is what's dope. And listen, it got my attention, and I'm used to being on panels and things like that. But the way you approach things to me sound like you had balance. I'll share with you one of the funniest comments they told me. So I actually have two, and most of the people that subscribe to my channel know what they are because we always laugh about them. But one was, I'm Kelsey Samuels. So,
Yeah, play on Kevin. Yeah. Wow.
Yeah. So it was that. And then the other one, somebody disagreed with something I said, and they told me to get out of my mama's basement. So I was like,
yeah, see, yeah. I haven't gotten those kinds of, although they really could come at me and be like, because I mean, I moved, so my environment is different than what it was back when I was living in Michigan, right? So that's wild, and actually pretty funny. I mean, what'd you do? How'd you feel? Like
when they said that? So I responded, I like changed the view because I guess I don't know what was the view that I had showing, because I didn't care enough to change my background, but I moved the view to show the back window, and that next episode I was like, I moved out of my mama's basement now. So that was it. That was my comeback. But I was like, my mother doesn't even have a basement for me to live in. But listen, it is what it is. People are gonna think what they want to think, and if they disagree with you, that's how you know if they make it a personal attack. They don't have any merit to their argument, so they want to personally attack you versus engaging in exchange of ideas. So for me, it's like funny.
Yeah, that's crazy. I ain't got that. Y'all, they've been nice to me, I guess, they in the comparison.
Probably because, listen, I usually come out the gate swinging just a little bit, and I'm not afraid to share an unpopular opinion.
Mm-hmm.
And the Little Black Book channel too is, I would say, the majority of the audience is mostly women. So, you know, if I say something that is holding a woman accountable or anything to that nature, that's what usually gets, you know, it gets people a little bit riled up, you know, but it is what it is. So let's talk about your journey. So you born and raised in Detroit, Michigan. When did you move to LA?
I moved to LA. I got here like the beginning of October, so it's been like a month since I've been here. So not too long.
So fresh. Where in LA, Crystal?
It's like Crystal. Don't give me the line. I know LA big, and I'll be like LA proper, like LA. I guess that's how you say it. Like I don't know the lingo. I would give my cross streets, but people is crazy, so I ain't gonna do that. But LA proper, like
Okay.
yeah.
And what made you move over?
You know, I've always wanted to live somewhere other than Michigan. Like Detroit is cool, right? But I've always wanted to live somewhere else. I think I may have considered Houston at one point. Where else did I consider? I considered some other place. But I've visited LA. Like I said, I have 3 brothers, and 2 of them lived here for a while. One moved back to Detroit, and now one still lives here. So the only piece of family I have is my brother. I'm a twin, by the way. I have a twin brother. So it's just me and my twin out here. Hi, Lucky.
Oh, that's your ace right there.
Yes, that's my ace. That's my homegirl. What's up, Lucky?
So
shout
definitely.
out to her.
What you say?
I said shout out to Lucky.
Yes, absolutely. And if anybody, listen, all of Lauren Melissa's information is down in the description box. Her YouTube page, her Instagram. Check out her Instagram and YouTube page, and she does great mix up with her and Lucky. They do what is it? A shoot your shot.
Shoot your shot Saturday. Yep, and then late night girl talk on Fridays and Sundays.
Nice. So that's what's up. I saw you had January on there, right? Was that the most recent episode?
Yes. Yep. She was on there on last Saturday.
Nice. Yeah. So you moved to LA. What brought you to LA?
Nothing. I have nothing here. I have a job. I work remote, so my work is pretty much all over the U.S. I'm a program manager by day, and I'm working my day job, and then at night YouTubing it out. So really just a different atmosphere, different energy, like no rhyme, no reason. Have no aspirations to be an actor or actress. Although if it falls in my lap, I openly accept. But I can't sing. I used to dance like ballet, tap, jazz, hip hop, all that stuff. But I'm not out here to be like a background dancer or anything like that. So, we're just here to see what happens.
No, that's what's up. That's what I always admire, anybody that really ventures out from, where they live. And I always, that's what intrigued me. So once I heard you move from Detroit, I was like, yeah, I want to chop it up. I want to talk to her because I want to see because that's such a big adventurous. It's not like you moved the state over. You moved to another coast.
Yeah, and we drove, right? Like me and my dad drove from Michigan to Cali. Like that was an experience I never want to experience again. Like I'm never doing it again. Just the mere thought of me having to drive my car anywhere, like really, I'm just no thank you. But yeah, we packed up the car, we packed up a U-Haul and like trucked it with no breaks at a hotel. Yeah, I think I talked a little bit about it on Blind Guy, his wife, their lives channel, but this was the time like I spent with my dad. My parents are divorced, and he moved to Alabama. So this is probably the longest time I've spent with him since I was about 15. And so that was an experience of just like being around my dad as an adult. And it was an experience. I'll say that. But I enjoyed every moment spent with him. Something I'll never forget and I'll cherish forever for sure.
So yeah, that cross country drive can test you with the best of people. So
Shout out to Crystal. Hi, LA friend.
yes, she is. Crystal's in Atlanta now, but yep, she
Oh,
is. She's from Cali.
yeah.
Nice. So what's Lucky saying? She said the West Side is the best side.
She's originally from LA as well.
Uh-huh.
She lives in Vegas. And like fun fact, I met Lucky through YouTube. Like we're not. I haven't met her personally, but you would think that we've known each other forever. And like our chemistry, just how we work with each other. It's like a sister relationship, and she's awesome.
That's dope. And to some of the people you are starting to see like in the comments and sharing comments now, all people that I met through YouTube.
Nice.
And it is amazing. And even, when you popped into my post birthday celebration, the majority of those people that were in there with probably a handful of close family and friends were people that I met on YouTube. So it's dope how we just can form this community amongst each other. And then you have like these fast friends that's like they've been your best friends forever, but you just met them. So it's definitely cool.
Yeah.
So you got here to LA.
Mm-hmm.
You just settling in. You just pretty much been here 30 days.
Yeah.
So what are your thoughts so far of LA? How do you feel? Do you feel like it's different than, where you're from?
And the weather's different. There's no snow, but my God, it gets very cold here. So, although I am very used to the cold, it get cold in LA, y'all. I can't say that I have a lot of, I can't make a judgment on LA because, I haven't actually gone out anywhere. Y'all, I've really been head first into my computer, really diving into content, right? Like I literally got here and started work, really took YouTube very seriously, and like that's been it. So I don't know what LA is like. I haven't been to restaurants, I haven't been nowhere. So I did say like maybe this weekend or something I want to get out. I know there was a new movie that came out. Maybe I'll go to a movie or something like that. Y'all, I'm lame. Okay, I don't go nowhere. Like it may seem like, oh, she's so cool. Like she probably knows everybody. I don't. I'm a homebody through and through.
So you said I heard you earlier say you have a twin brother, right? So your twin brother is now that he lives where?
In LA. It's just he
Oh,
and I here. Yeah.
oh, so that's perfect.
We
All
don't
right.
live together, but yeah, he's close.
That's dope. So at least you have some network, you know what I mean? So
Yeah.
that's cool. So at least you're not completely out there by yourself. So
Yeah.
pretty cool.
That would be scary. Like I'm not even gonna hold you. I do scary stuff, like travel across the world by myself, but I don't know if I would be able to like just plant myself here and be like here to stay by myself. Like
Nice. So you mentioned that, and I always advise this for anybody, especially before they get married or get into a super serious relationship, to take at least one vacation by themselves. So when you went off by yourself, where did you go?
okay, you semi by myself. So let me clarify. I did go by myself, but then when I got to the location, there were other people, right? So I flew to Asia, but there was like a layover in South Korea. And so that's kind of like the longest journey that I took by myself. That was super scary. When I got to Singapore, that's when my friends were there. But taking the journey from Chicago, because that's where I flew out of, Chicago to South Korea to Singapore, that was all by myself, and having to navigate an airport in a language that you don't know. I was like, please just let me get on the right plane. Let me not miss it. It was just a
Mm-hmm.
lot of anxiety that built up. So when I got to Asia, it was me and three other ladies. One of my best friend, and then her sister and her sister's best friend. And we ended up country hopping. So we went to Singapore, Bangkok, Bali, and Phuket. So for 2 weeks. And I think my parents were more nervous about me going overseas than I was. But I mean, I kind of cried when I got dropped off at the Chicago airport. I was sobbing, like, what am I going to do? I'm nervous. I'm scared.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm glad I did it. And that plane ride was very long.
Yeah, for sure. Like to navigate that by yourself, because those lengthy plane rides are no joke. Similar to you, my trip was a hybrid. So one of my best friends at the time worked for a company that was based in Germany. I was born in Germany and had never been back since I was a child. So I was like, I want to go back. So one trip I went back. So we flew in together to Germany. I stayed in the same area that he was staying in, but then I ventured off to Switzerland by myself for a couple of days.
Yeah.
So that's when I was like, it's a little nerve wracking getting on a train, navigating in a foreign country, but it was nothing like it, in the world. And I had a great time. So I hear that. So I think Lucky is starting a little turf war over here. Because Tiffany says she begs to differ. She said she's from the east side. No turf wars, Tiffany. Too funny. So I see a couple of people. I think these are not subscribers that I know. So I think these are some of your people. This Everything Everyday podcast by Daryl Long.
Yeah. Hey, Daryl.
Awesome.
Thanks for showing up.
Thanks for coming on over to my channel. So
yeah.
And Tiffany agrees. She's like, there's nothing wrong with being a homebody. I kind of tend to lean on that side too. I tend to, be more of a homebody. I get out when I have to. Since the pandemic, it's afforded me to work from home mostly. But now since things are kind of lifted, I'm hybrid. So I'm out a little more than I'm in. So, but it's cool. But I love TV again. So we were talking a little bit about Married at First Sight. You teased that you got a little story around Married at First Sight. So let me know what's going on with you in Married at First Sight.
I love Married at First Sight. Don't get me wrong, except for I am not watching this season. I think this season was a wash. I think when they first started shooting this season, they probably should have been like, we got to shut it down due to COVID. They may not have been the case, but they should have made that an excuse because they did not need to keep recording it because none of these people in my mind will last. I've only caught a couple episodes, but I don't have any faith. But I think my first love of Married at First Sight was like first season. I was like, oh my God, Married at First Sight. I think how old was I? I was maybe 23 or something like that. And I was working my first job and they had put out there, we're casting for season 2. And at the time, because it was new, I didn't necessarily catch on that you actually had to be living in the city that they're shooting in. I'm like, if they choose me, I can just fly there, right? So I applied. I did the application. I submitted a video. I even went to the extremes of telling my supervisor, so if they pick me, I'm going to get out. And she just laughed at me. Thankfully, me and my supervisor had a really great relationship. But she was just like, you didn't do it. I was like, I did. And she was like, let me see. And I showed her my audition video and she just cracked up laughing. And she was like, what do your mom think about that? I was like, well, she was the one who sent it to me to apply. So my mom is really obsessed with me, finding love. Right. So obviously I knew after that, you have to actually live in the city that they're casting for. So I had not applied anymore or again, but I do watch it and I'm always just intrigued. I think I was a little bit too invested with last season with Chris and Paige because one, I went to high school with someone that kind of went on the show, was not a cast member, but appeared on the show at one point. And so I'm like, wait, I know her kind of personally. We're not besties, but if she seen me in the street, she'll probably say hi kind of thing. Right. So I was like, this is too close. I can't believe I know people that's on the show. So that made me more invested. So yeah, I just love the idea. And I go back and forth on whether or not I would do it if it came to my city. Would you apply? And I think I'm getting so old, much older than when I was, that I'm just be like, you know what? Yeah, because at this point, if I ain't found him, where he at kind of thing, somebody can match me.
So this is Jay, and she's one of my homegirls. We actually have a channel together called Another Round. But she says you would really consider messing with a complete stranger. She says you're a daredevil. So is that true? Would you really would go on the show?
And I would really give it a shot. I think they would have fun with me. Like
Mm-hmm.
not the person, but production would have fun
Mm-hmm.
editing my scenes, because one thing about me is I can't hide my face. I don't know how many shows you've seen on the Lapeef network where people be like, Lauren, your face, oh my God, like I'll be dying laughing. You can't keep it together. Like I think they would probably make a compilation video of like, expressions of Lauren and how I will be looking at people laughing and just really reacting to the situation. So I would have fun with it. Now, I should say that when I was living in Michigan, I was a part of like a radio show called Young and Righteous Radio, and we would talk about like current topics, current events from a Christian perspective. And so this conversation came up about Married at First Sight, and I'm like, yeah, I would do it. And my homeboy was just like, well, I just feel like that's a mockery to marriage. Like, why would you play with marriage? I'm like, well, if you're going into it like it's a game, then yes, then that's bad. But if you're going into it with pure intentions, like I'm willing to give it a shot, I'm willing to give love a shot, and I'm going to take it seriously. I think it's a mindset thing. It's not necessarily the process itself, but I think it's how you approach it and how you think about it.
Yeah, for sure. But Monique, she's she's a regular. She says you're too sane for that. She said maybe in the beginning, seasons 1 through 8.
Well, look at her. I don't know if I'm new to her, but I'm glad she thinks I'm sane, because it's a lot of people out here.
Yeah, for sure. I don't know, Lauren. I don't know, because I know you only caught the first few episodes of this current season, but between last season and this season, those of us that are reviewing it, we just really feel like at the end of the day, production is behind the scenes and not looking out for people's best interests. You know what I mean?
Definitely, to her point, when she said maybe seasons 1 through 8, when they actually cared, I do think, like, again, early on, there was a method to their madness. Like, we really are in this experimental phase. We want to know if this works, right? But I think much like anything, the goal changes, right? When you see the money coming in, when you see how many applicants you get for casting requests, all of that, I think they went from this is a goal of an experiment to we just want the money and we don't care who gets hurt in the process. I think you say this season showed it. I think even last season showed a little bit about the recklessness that they have, just in terms of how they handled Paige, how they allowed certain things to manifest, certain narratives to be painted. So yeah, I just think that there's a lot of mishandling of people's feelings, and it's just not a good look, in my opinion. Now, again, I'm one of those risk takers. I'm really nice. I would still probably do it just to see if it works for me.
No, I hear you. I hear you. So what's up, Mimi? Appreciate you. Glad you actually did get to catch a live with us. So Essence has some questions, and Essence is actually a newlywed. Shout out. So I'm glad you were able to join us, Essence. So she wants to know, what are the top character traits you would ask the experts for in your meet?
That is a really great question. Character traits would probably be that is a really tough question, because I'm really thinking about it in terms of what people put on paper versus what you can see from an interview, right? If you say I want someone that's integral, that has integrity, right? How do you measure integrity from an application or an interview, right? So I'm really trying to think of something tangible that you can actually see, maybe. Perhaps their decision-making abilities, like the ability to make decisions, like does it come from a sound place? Or how quickly do you make decisions? If you're quick to make decisions, I would probably be like, well, that just means they don't take time to think before they act. You just do. And I think that's a little bit risky. What else? I don't know. I can't think of top ones. She got me. That's a really great question. Obviously, I do have set things that I look for in a man. But in terms of asking the experts for, I would have to think about that.
Well, I think you nailed something really good about that, and that decision-making piece. And I think it just gave us a little insight into your thought process, right? Because you don't just want the surface stuff. You want what really is going to be building a long-lasting relationship. So I think that just speaks to how you approach the relationship. So clearly you're open to be married, right? If you're going to go on married at first sight, you are looking to be married in the future.
Yeah.
So how soon, like, where, if you had to, like, where would you see yourself in terms of being married? Like, if you met somebody now, would you be ready to get married down the line?
Yeah, absolutely. I don't necessarily put a time on it, and if I'm honest, I I say this all the time. I don't actually. People dream about weddings, and people say this is what I want. I think I'm different, and in some ways maybe a little weird. I actually can't see a actual wedding happening. I see me going from being courted to actually then being married. The phase in the middle of like being engaged, preparing for a wedding, the actual wedding, it's a blur to me. I don't know what it looks like. I can't describe it. Sure, I may come across a picture and be like, "Oh, this is cute. I want this. I would want this for my bridesmaids." But if you asked me yesterday to describe it and I saw it yesterday, if you asked me today to describe it and I saw the picture yesterday, I couldn't, because it just doesn't click to me. So I'm not one of those women that like creates a vision board of how I see my wedding. I just personally cannot see me walking down the aisle. I just see me actually going from being courted to being married and being someone's wife.
I
That,
got you.
that may sound crazy, but do I
No.
want a wedding? Maybe, yeah, sure. I actually maybe want a ceremony, but maybe destination wedding, or something like that. I don't really want anything too big.
So listen, what you out here doing, Lauren? You trying to set the guys on fire? You trying to get marriage proposals? Because the way you're talking is the thing that, as a man, like, we love to hear that, because sometimes we get too caught up in the social media Disneyland version of what a wedding should be, and we don't focus on the marriage. We focus on the wedding, which is
Yeah.
one day out of what should be an eternity. So I love that perspective. And
It's not like I have a like it's not like I know from experience. I haven't only been a bridesmaid one time. So I have not had experience with bridezillas or even the wedding planning process. I am very blind to all of that. So yeah, it's not coming from, well, I know somebody did this and I know this don't work and this happens. I'm not coming from that at all, because I honestly just don't know what all it entails. But I do know I can use my resources differently. I can use my time differently. Like, yeah.
see, look at that. You already got Michael. Michael's saying that. Mimi is like destination wedding all day. So, I think sometimes men, when we think about what a wedding should be, we get a little nervous because we don't want to have to deal with all of the hoopla of this and that. And then the expense that comes along with that, when that money could be going to other places. Right.
Yeah.
So I love that. So so you said you want to be courted. What does courting mean to you?
Courted just means like just showing legitimate interest with intention, right? Like, you're not dating other people. It's like, I am interested in you. I want to build something with you, but before I get there, there are things like I'm collecting data. So courting to me is like a data collecting process, but with intention.
I love it. So another thing, and this is a question that I had down that I wanted to ask you. Sometimes this gets hotly debated, especially in these YouTube panels and in social media. How do you feel about the question, what do you bring to the table? Does that bother you?
It only bothers me because when I say what I would bring to the table, it's, we don't want that. And I'm like, well, your peers say otherwise, okay? Like, your peers aren't coming to the table with the things that I have. So clearly what I'm bringing to the table is what's currently missing from your peers. So you might want to go back to the larger group and come to a conclusion as to if that's what you want. Like, that's just my opinion. Like, so for example, right? Like, I'll invite you into like where my mindset was, and I can't say for sure if this is still how I think, but because I no longer have the property. So anyways, I first purchased up my home when I was 25 or 26. And I did it because I was just like, yo, I always want to own a home, but I don't want to wait for a husband to do that. If I wait for a husband, I'm going to be waiting for forever. Let me just purchase a home. if I happen to find someone while I have this home, we can make a decision together on whether or not we want this to be a rental property or if we want to sell it. And if we sell it, we can use these funds towards something that we both want, right? So even going into this home buying process, I'm thinking about the future, and it's less about like I'm getting this because can't no man get it for me. Like ain't nobody think about that. So if I tell somebody like, yo, what I bring to the table, I bring this, and they be like, we don't want your house, we can build a house. It's like, well, okay, you can, but like you ain't really got to. I mean, you could do that too, but we can also have like another stream of income elsewhere. So like I think just this whole narrative of like women trying to do and be in men's roles, like that's not my goal, you know. So I'm just not waiting around for a man to come do it.
Yeah, no, I hear you, and I think that if you say it the way that I'm hearing you say it, I don't think it's going to be offensive or come off like you're trying to brag in terms of what you have.
But that's not what they want, though, Shawn. They want you to have a list, and then, like the moment you start explaining yourself, they're like, no. We just want to know your top 3. And you'd be like, well, dang. Like, if I give you my top 3, if I just say house, you know, X, Y, and Z, they're going to be like, we don't want that. I'm like, well, if you give me a chance to articulate why I'm saying.
So who are these dudes you're talking to, Lauren? Because.
Well, it's not like a, you know, dudes be in my inbox. I think it's the comments, right? Or in passing, if someone asks me in person or something like that, like that's the narrative. Is like, see, that's the problem with y'all. And I'm like, okay. All right. I mean, do you want the like the carbon copy answer of like, I can make your house a home. I can, like, yeah, sure, I can do all of those things, but so can every other woman. So if you're asking me what I can bring to the table that I feel is unique to me, then that's what you're gonna get. Because I don't know too many women, single women, out here buying houses just because. Do you feel me? Like,
got you. So what else do you think makes you uniquely your Lauren and appealing to a man? Scratch the table.
Hard question. Well, you okay? These are questions you got to send me ahead of time for me to think because, like I said, this video lasts forever. The question.
What do you want to say that you wouldn't want to last forever?
No, but I'm just saying. I want to make sure I'm articulating it right, and you know, long pauses don't really do well on camera. So let me think on my toes. What do I bring that I feel is unique? I mean, obviously for me, it's my personality. It's I get this a lot, and some can be like, that's not a good thing, more. But I think men feel comfortable talking to me because that's just what it is. It could be because I have 3 brothers and I'm just used to being around men and I can just engage in conversation. But there's a flip side to that. Because I'm so cool to talk to, I think people kind of find that as like flirtatious. And it's like, well, no, I'm just being cool. Like, I don't know what you want. So, I mean, I think that's what makes me unique, is that I'm kind of easy to talk to. I'm open-minded, meaning I'm not like so rigid in that everything has to be a certain way. It's like I'm open to change. I'm open to feedback. And I'm very spontaneous and adventurous, meaning I'm willing to try something once. I think that's something that like most women is like, I don't know, but this is just what I hear. It's like, women, you have to know what you want, blah, 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 blah. And like I said, I could think one thing one day, and then the next one I'm like, let me see. I'm not going to knock it before I try it, kind of thing. And so some people would be like, nah, a person that's double-minded is, you know, unstable. I wouldn't call it double-minded. I would just call it as someone who's, would you call it free-spirited? I wouldn't even call it free-spirited. I don't even know what to call it. But I mean, I don't really see a negative thing about it, but some people.
Yeah, no, I think it's just open to other opinions, open to other people's, you know, or doing things that could be outside of your comfort zone. Yeah. So there's nothing wrong with that, because sometimes in the dating world, from a man's perspective, sometimes we will approach women or be in relationships with women and they will have walls up, and those walls will have them closed off to doing things that, you know, perhaps we would want to do. So I think that your openness to discuss and potentially do those things is great. And I think you've exhibited. I didn't want to give you the answer, but I think your listening skills. That's what I saw. That was like, yeah, I want to talk to her because I don't just interview everybody, and I am new to YouTube, but the interview thing is not necessarily something that I just kind of go about, haphazardly. I interview people that have an interest to me and that I want to have a conversation, and I've seen something about them that I feel like we could have a good conversation. And that's the one thing I did see is the ability to listen and hear and be in a space with men and listen. Because sometimes we get into these conversations and they're hotly debated. And I've experienced where women want to tell men how to feel. And that for me, it just rubs me the wrong way. Don't tell me how to feel. I'm not going to tell you how to feel, but don't tell me how to feel. So,
yeah. I would agree. I agree. I've gotten some feedback like I'm a great listener. But sometimes I don't know what to say. And sometimes that's okay. But
it is that silence is it's an age-old expression. Silence is golden. Sometimes it's golden because when you start filling stuff with extra things, you can easily go off course, right? So Michael is asking a controversial question over here. He wants to know, what are your thoughts on the high value man narrative, and if you're looking for one?
Yeah, Michael, there's a video. It's one of my first live videos I did by myself about a high value man versus a high quality man. I think I want both high quality. I want a person that exudes both high quality and high value. And what that means is high quality is one that I think is really in tune, like, has emotional intelligence a little bit more than perhaps a high value man would, right? A high value man is like really interested in like the bag, like getting money and building that network so that he maintains his status. And obviously the high value man is what people want, which again, I do want that, but I also want a man that is sensitive to my needs as well. I mean, and the video was called like, is the high quality man a simp or something like that? Because some would say, or that term, again, I'm not in the manosphere, I don't really know. You should go watch the video because it got really interesting. But yeah, I would like someone who is high value, right? Who has positionality at his job, who people can respect, who when he walks into a room, they shut up, right? I want him to be confident and be masculine in himself, just be a man's man is what I want. But I also want him to be attentive to my needs and, have emotional intelligence.
Okay, so you want the unicorn.
You know what? It's funny you say that. I don't think it's a unicorn. Because at the end of the day, I do think that there are some men that are wired like that.
Okay.
Because of the atmosphere, it's really pushing men to choose. You don't have to choose. And I know they exist because most of these men were raised by their mothers, right? And if you were raised by your mom, I know you have some of the abilities to exude care, to show signs of care and empathy. I know you have it because your mom raised you and you probably looked out for your mom, but because you got into the world, right, and the world's telling you this is how you got to be, you're now shifting to be kind of like an a-hole in a sense. Because sorry people, but I do view some high value men as assholes. Like they just don't care how they treat you. It's like, I make this much money, and because I make this much money, I can treat you how I want. And if you don't like to be treated this way, you don't deserve me. And it's like, well, no, you can make money, and you can also be a man with character. You can be a man with integrity. You can do all of those things.
All right now. Well, Michael says you were sent from Jehovah, so he is he's on board with everything you got to say. So he's loving it. So speaking of Jehovah, I believe, am I correct? You're a believer as well? Okay. So tell me about your faith journey. Did you grow up in the church? Did you find God later in life?
Good question. So no, I was not raised in the church. Probably, my mom gave me an option. My two older brothers were like, "You going to church? You know, you have no option." But then when me and my twin came around, it was like, "You can go if you want." So we kind of had an option to go. We went sometimes we didn't. It wasn't until I got to college when I got really serious into going to church, probably like my senior year or a little bit thereafter in my master's program. So I did join a church. I served, really involved, and then the church ended up relocating. And then we went into like the pandemic, and then it was virtual. So I haven't joined a church since I got here. But like that's the journey of like me going to church, but me having a relationship with God, like from 2015 to 2021, it was just like full throttle. I'm at church probably 4 days out of the week, right? So yeah, and there's another video on my channel where I talk about me quitting my job, and it was during that time I quit my job with no job at that time, and I called that my faith walk, because I mean I was unemployed for a few months, and God sustained me in that way, to where I didn't need or want for anything during that time. That's when I started blogging on my website. So if you read my blogs, you'll kind of get an insight into like my journey through kind of self-discovery, and during just doing some like self-reflection a lot of like, what do I need to change? What do I need to improve kind of thing. And then I did land a job, which I'm in right now, a few years ago. So yeah, it's been a journey, and I'm glad you said that. My faith journey it's exactly that, a journey. It's up and down, but what other believer's journey isn't?
Of course, 100%. And I love that you shared that, right? Because for those of us, and a little different from you, I grew up in the church, and then did my own thing during college, and then shortly after college, I reestablished my own personal relationship with God versus the one that was instilled in me from childhood, which for me is the most important part of my faith. Obviously, the foundation was important, but the relationship that I now today have with God is based on the one that I found as an adult.
Yeah.
So I think that's cool.
And I didn't add, like, I was also a part of like a radio show, Young and Righteous Radio, where it was a group of us, a podcast, and I kind of explained it before, but on the panel there are two pastors' kids, and then two that were really raised in church, and then there was me. And I was just like, I don't fit. And they're like, yes, you do, Lauren. You have a different perspective. And that's the point of the show, to have different perspectives from, believers entering into their faith walk at a different phase in life. And so it's a very interesting podcast. I love them dearly. And when you listen, you hear our take on certain things, and it's different. It's vastly different, yet we all believe in the same God, and on the channel or on the podcast. So I think it's definitely interesting that we have a world of people that believe who they believe in and what they believe in, but we all have different ideas, perspectives, and ways of living. And I think that's what makes us unique, in a way. So
No, that's dope, and I think that this is kind of like set the foundation for what you're doing now, is exploring relationships in a different way. I mean, that's kind of how I see aspects of the your YouTube channel, is you explore relationships, and you like to talk to people and see where their head is at. So I love that aspect of what you're doing over there on your channel, and I love that in a lot of instances it's two women, two sisters up there, kind of like, and you give the men a run for their money sometimes. So I love it.
I love y'all, but I got to.
So where do you see that show going? What's the goal there? Like, where do you see that going?
Yeah, so like initially when I started my channel, I'm like, I just want to vlog. I want to do lunch with Lauren, and I want to share pieces of my journey. My fitness journey has been one that I dread, but I absolutely adore it, because it like, I feel like everybody needs like a little bit of fight. Like, you got to be fighting for something, and like for me, it's like I need to fight for obedience and discipline to get in the gym. So like I'm taking people along on that ride. And then the show with Lucky and I, it's like there's an entertainment piece, right? I went to school for broadcasting. I initially wanted to be a news anchor. That never happened, but there was still a part of me that like I wanted to be a part of conversations. I wanted to share people's stories. So that was really the backing, like how I wanted to do Lunch with Lauren, was to interview style, share people with other people by way of interview and kind of make it a show. But then with the Lauren and Lucky thing, it's more so like, let's have a conversation, and let's not let it I want it to be led by women, right? Number one. But let's have fun with it, like flirty fun and real, because I'm all about authenticity. So that's what you'll see. It's kind of like authenticity with me. So yeah, it's if I had to describe my show in a few words, it's like authenticity, fun, intentionality of just like showing your journey in its raw form, and then just showing up as yourself. I want people in the comment section to feel comfortable to cam up and call in, and not feel like they're being judged or like they can't do it. So yeah.
I love it. I love it. And you guys do that so well. So, and you are growing at a really fast pace too. So I noticed that just within the last like 3-4 months, you guys are up there. So
I don't know
shout
if that's
out
a
to
good
you.
thing or bad thing. What are people looking for? No, I'm just playing. Are they looking
Well,
for
listen,
controversy or what?
Corey over here is saying, what in the hazel eyes did he walk in on? So
Hi.
clearly, you and Lucky are drawing them in. So, I think, but the keeping them is the point. And it seems like even in the comments, you had some of your subscribers jump on. So, you're retaining them. So they might be coming for one thing, but they'll stay for another. So I look at it that way.
Yeah.
So speaking of that, shoot your shot, right? So when you think about that, or would you really, like, if somebody came on there and shot their shot at you, would you be open to the idea of exploring a conversation with that person?
Yeah, it's possible.
Okay. All
If they
right.
do it the right way. But right now, I mean, we only had one show, but it's not looking too hot for the brothers. Like they
Come on, give us some feedback. So I love the one thing you said too that got my ear is the feedback part, because I've been ranting. Like I've been known to go on a couple of rants on Little Black Book a couple times, and on my channel definitely, but not as much because I'm just starting out here. But the feedback thing is something that I think some folks really struggle with taking. Even watching the most recent season of Ready to Love, one of the sisters there, she had a hard time hearing the feedback from the fellas. So if you say you're into feedback, right? So you don't mind taking the feedback. Can you think of a time where maybe a past relationship, the guy shared some feedback with you, and you took that feedback?
yeah. I know one for sure. So it was like I'm too emotional. Like, and so he came to that conclusion because I overshare, right? Like there's this notion, like, who said it? And I think Anton said it one day on his channel when he had me. And I was just like, yeah, I want a man. Like, I can come home and I can tell him about my day. And he was like, we don't care about your day. And I was like, what? And then, like, everybody in the chat was like, we right, Lauren. Like, your man ain't your therapist. He don't want to hear about your day. So I literally took that information and I pondered on it a little bit. And I went to my older brother. I was like, man, his name is Shawn, but it's spelled differently. I was like, Shawn, men don't care about like y'all women's day, like y'all don't? He was like, you want the honest answer? I was like, yeah. He was like, no. I was like, oh my God, okay. So then I had to really realize, like, oh, when he said I was too emotional, it's because I'll be sharing too much detail. It's not like he doesn't want to hear about your day, but he ain't trying to hear all the details about it. Like, so Sarah told blah blah blah, and they don't care. How was your day? It was good. Bet. You hungry? Bet. We got food. Like that kind of thing. Like they're not trying to hear who did what to who and how that impacted. So what I've been doing now is, one, asking for permission. Like, can I share? Like, do you mind? Like, because I also want to consider what weight they're carrying, right? And then I say, I'm only going to share one story a day. So obviously out of, my whole day, tons of things could happen, good or bad, but then I make the decision as to which part of my day I want to share. So I still share. So it's not like I'm not sharing anything, but I choose one thing to share out of my day.
Are you out here trying to like sing the mermaid song and entice the fellas? Because
No.
that's like next level. And here goes Jay. She always starts trouble, so just forgive her. She's like, shoot my shot. Then
Hey,
she's
but
like,
Lucky's right. Lucky said we don't care about theirs either. Like,
Lucky's a little tough cookie though. Lucky's a tough cookie.
listen, so that's then before I'll jump back to what we were talking about, but that's what I love about Lucky, and I think that's why our show works, right?
Mm-hmm.
Me and Lucky are two super dope women, but like Lucky is like, think of like a woman on the right and a woman on the left telling like in your ear like go left, and she's like go right, you know, like me and Lucky are like yin and yang, if I could say that, but to not, you know, bad or good, but just like we're both really quality women, but I think our viewpoints are different. So I really love the dynamic with me and Lucky. So stick around. If you did subscribe to my channel, it's just going to get better. But back to this thing. No, I'm not out here trying to Little Mermaid the situation. I just take feedback and I really think about it, and I don't get defensive like I'm not emotional, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, okay, there you have a point. I guess I was a little bit too much.
So that's dope. And I love that. And that's how relationships expand. And it works both ways, right? You know, my idea of that is just that same effort that you're willing to put in would be the same effort where if you're that considerate, I might just listen in to a long-winded story about what Tisha and Tasha and Susan did at the job. Like I might not remember every bit in detail, but if you're that, you know, you're that considerate of my time, that makes a man want to listen. You know what I mean? But you go rambling on and firing shots the minute I walk through the door and I had a rough day too. It's like, yeah, no, I'm good. Time out.
Yeah. Now I would say like the strategy I just shared is not like it's been tested and tried for years. Like I just started doing that maybe like 6-7 months. Right. So it's still fairly new. Like I'm ever evolving, changing, growing. But yes, this whole asking for permission and only sharing like one story a day, it's yeah, it works. I do it with my brother, like mostly.
Gotcha. So what it sounds like is you need a gentleman candidate to practice these new learned skills on.
You know what? I honestly, I don't want to look. I don't want no bad blood because it'll be just my luck. Somebody be like, "Well, I got her number. I was talking to her, and she did." Like I don't got. I am literally focused on my job, my YouTube channel. And so like, I'm one of those people, like if it happens, it happens, right? I'm not trying to force nothing. Yeah. So don't be putting me all on the chopping block, Shawn. And
no. I'm just,
if I don't answer.
This is a conversation. I just want to get to know where your headspace is, where you are. And Tiffany's a feisty one too. So she's probably similar like Lucky. So she's like, bring Lucky in on this interview.
Listen, Lucky's great, Shawn.
She wants to shake the table. Oh, you know what? It's so funny. This is another one of my fellow panelists from Little Black Book. We are also Scorpio brothers, and we are similar in that that dynamic that you and Lucky have, where I'm probably a little more outspoken, a little more like punchy, and I'll say what I'm thinking. Corey will think it out a little bit more. He's a little more reserved. He's going to check in to make the temperature of the room. Whereas me, if I got something to say, it's coming out.
That's Lucky. And I love it. But Lucky be getting me in check though. She'd be like, girl, like, and I'm like, okay. I gotta get some more tough skin. I gotta get grow another backbone or something. Cause I'm still growing. I don't got it.
Oh, I think, Crystal, I don't know what you're trying to do, Crystal. If you're trying to pitch Dr. Ono to he's a fellow panelist of ours, and he's just finishing up his residency in Detroit right now. So I don't know if she's trying to drop some subtle cues that there's a doctor out there that will do all those things that you mentioned. It's another one of my good brothers. Michael from Florida checking us out. He says the right person will be willing to listen to all the cray stories. And this is a married brother, so he's speaking from his own experience of knowing that if you find that right one, they'll listen.
Yeah.
Oh, if Lucky is still out there, a lot of people were asking about your channel. If she could just drop the link in the channel, it is also in the description box too, if anybody that wants to see it. But Lucky, please, if you can, just drop the link to Laura Melissa in the chat.
I'll drop it too.
This is another one of my friends from Texas, and he's probably leaning on the Lucky side in terms of just being quite frank and blunt. He's like,
call your homegirl.
He said, call your homegirl on that one. So, and again, you know what I've learned, and I was talking to my therapist because since my divorce, I started seeing a therapist, and I was talking to him, and he mentioned not really that the whole love languages, thing that's out there. It wasn't a part of his clinical training. So he was just asking me if I had heard about it and what my thoughts on it were. And, because now everybody is like, what's your love language? Like, that's how we start off conversations. So it's like, I mean, yeah, it's good. But, acts of service is, what's that going to mean? Like, what are you going to do with the information? You know what I mean?
I mean, that's the piece people don't explore. It's like they do the quiz. They say this is what they are, but then they don't know how to communicate their needs, or they don't know what to check for when they are, dating somebody, if you do ask that question. So typically, I mean, I've asked that question. That's kind of why I laughed. And if the dude be like, I don't know what that is, I'm like, okay, take this quiz, read this prompt, and then come back. Like, I give him homework, right? And if you don't do the homework, then like that's probably like a negative whatever. Like, you get some points taken away from that because it's like you aren't even dedicated to do something that I think is kind of fun. Like, I love personality tests to see, like, what's your strengths, what are you good at, what do you dislike, what do you tend to avoid. Like, these are things that I'm interested in. Like, granted, yes, they're personality quizzes or surveys and tests. It really doesn't matter, but it's a good a conversation starter.
Definitely. This is, fellas, y'all not making it easy for us. Just take it easy. Another good friend from the YouTube waves, David's in Australia, and he says, we don't want to hear it all. Thank you. Maybe he meant he doesn't want to hear it all, but a piece of it.
Right. I think that's
also married, so I think he doesn't mean he wants to hear the long.
Just
give him the condensed.
Just a little piece. I got it. So we get it.
Yeah, and I think some of us, and what is so bad, and I'm gonna be honest, right? This is about honesty and unfiltered. Like, it depends on the woman that will determine how much we'll listen and how much we'll care, or what's the reward on the other side of the listening that we're gonna get. So, fill in the blanks.
You're right. Because like if you for example, for the men, I get why it's people like saying we don't care, because how did you approach the situation to begin with? Did you approach it because you just wanted to smash, or did you approach it because you actually saw something in the lady? Now, if you talking to this girl and you just wanted to smash and she telling you about her day, of course you're not gonna care because your focus is on something else. But if you're really into this chick and you really want this to go somewhere, you probably do want to hear about her day.
Yeah, for sure. And that's so true. And then the other part is, and listen, this is a man thing. It's like, what's the reward? So after we listen to your day, what are you going to do for me? And this is not exactly a question at you, but this is just a mindset of the man in terms of what's because we like a reward. That's just how our minds work. Huh?
For listening? You want a reward for listening?
You said there's not a lot of men out there doing it, right? So if we're taking the effort to really do it and be intentional, and we listen to you carry on, what am I going to get? What's the benefit?
I mean, what? Like, I think I'm just flabbergasted that somebody's like, what are you going to do for me? Because I listened. Like, no, you should want to listen, number one. And number two, because I share a story of, like, if I share something, doesn't mean that something is going to get neglected. right? So just because I'm sharing a story doesn't mean I'm not gonna cook dinner. Just because I'm sharing a story doesn't mean I'm not gonna run your bath water. Just because I'm sharing a story, like, I think my question back to you is like, what would a typical reward be? Because I mean, I feel like the wifely duties are still happening, like, but what kind of reward do you think is warranted for listening?
So we were having such a good interview. I want to bring down the strength.
This is
It's not, and I'm
okay.
teasing you. It's not like, so listen, it's not that like deliberate. Like, so if I listen to you, then bam, this is what's happening next, right? It's almost like when somebody does something for you that makes you feel good, there's almost a way that you want to reciprocate that same feeling and give them something that makes them feel good. It doesn't have to be fill in the blanks, but it can be another act that would make that particular man, and it might not be in that very same moment. It might be a time when you're mad at him for something else. And you're like, you know what? This fool sat and listened to this story. And I know I was going on for 15, 20 minutes about nothing, but I'm going to give him a pass here. It could even be something as simple as that.
Right. I hear where you're coming from. I do. I think
Michael, please don't get me in trouble. I just met Lauren. I'm not trying to start no trouble.
But I hear what he's saying. But my question is, why don't you all think that you'll get that without listening? Like, you know what I mean? Like, to me, all of these things that, like the shower, somebody else said, like foreplay, whatever, like all of those things can happen even if I don't share a story and you don't listen. So to me, that's why I'm just like, I don't know what extra I would give you, because you're gonna get it anyway.
So
right? Like,
now you got you messing with Mimi's head right now, because he's like, what in the angel drop from heaven are you talking about? Because listen, but Mike, she understands we have needs, but what she's saying, Mike, is that that's already covered. She's like, that's the basics. That's how she is approaching the situation. She's coming out the gate with that. So you don't have to do anything or do anything extra for that to come along with it. That's the mindset.
Yeah, so I have a question for him then.
Sure.
Like, my question is the legitimate question, because I'm learning here. Obviously, this is something I had not thought of. I should probably think about it. What is it that y'all would want with the understanding that all of the things you all just named actually comes with the marriage? Like, it's gonna come. It's like a package deal. Like, you're gonna get the rub downs, you're gonna get the foreplay, you're gonna get the shot, like, you're gonna get all that. So, like, what extra stuff would you want, Michael and Shawn and friends?
You're gonna gather us all, right?
Gather you all up, get together and convene and tell me, what is it?
That's not always, and I get it. I love you for just going into it and saying with that fresh mindset that I'm gonna do with all of that. But sometimes when the rubber meets the road, Lauren, it don't always play out that way. Sometimes we get a little, oh, I'm tired, I got a headache, and it's like, so some other things happen that become busy. We have kids, and then the kids come first. You want to go on a girls' trip. Like, it's like all these other things that, as time passes, they kind of just, the other things that we were doing in the beginning, they kind of just get pushed further down the,
Right. So, okay, Monique, I have a question. She said men should get something for listening. So Monique, if you could tell me what you think men should get, I'm interested. But I see Mimi's comment about spontaneous stuff. I would agree. I get that, right? So when I saw that comment, I'm like, yes, okay, now it's starting to click to me. I could do something like, obviously all that stuff is going to happen, but maybe in the morning I could bring breakfast in bed. We always eat breakfast at the table, but maybe this time it's breakfast in bed. Like, switch it up or do something special. So I get that, Mimi. Thank you for saying that. Because I am spontaneous and adventurous, that's where my mind went, because I'm creative in that sense. So maybe it's like, get home, run the bath water. Maybe it's a message in a bottle. I'm giving game, ladies, like, Like maybe it's a message in a bottle, like floating in the bath water, right? Like, oh, what's that? You open it up, it's a nice little, whatever your man's love language is, play to that, right? Obviously, a man gonna be like a piece of paper, ball it up. What the hell is that? Like, he ain't gonna care. But whatever the man would want, right? So yeah, thank you for saying that. But that got me thinking.
So I'm glad. See, this is what happens. This is why two people who can have great conversation. This is how we meet each other in the middle. We are showing, the population how men and women can meet each other in the middle. Because sometimes, conversations like that can just pop off, and before you know it, it's like, well, listen, what you doing? So I love that you approached it. You listened. You had you almost pulled the boxing gloves out on me, but you put them away for a second. So I appreciate it. So Mike also says it's the consistency around all the things that you have intentions of doing. So again, this is from a married man, and been married for many years. So I think that's the part too, right? I think as a man who's been married and knows a good deal of men that are married, sometimes what the difference for us is, we like consistency. We like things to be the way they always were, right? In the sense of, if we did this during dating and in the early stages of our marriage, we want that to play out throughout. And sometimes women like they can be a little more forgiving in that area.
And men too, because men don't be caring at all. I'd be like, this what you wanted the ring, you got the ring. Now shut up. And then lady or any old kind of way. Okay. So I mean, we're both men and women can both take the heat. Okay. So that was a message to everybody, not just the women.
Ladies, all right. Y'all see this, right? She just came up on my show and told me off in a nice way, right? But I'll take it. I can take it from you, Lauren.
Accountability. There you go.
I love it. I'm all about it. So this is what Monique has another comment for you.
Lauren, it's not a given that women will give rub downs for a player breakfast in bed. You're on point with what should be expected. Yeah. I mean, I think, I think that's why maybe the late night girl talks and channels and shows like that with women talking and on the panel, I think more women need to hear, especially married women. So let me step back, because I'm single. I've never been married. I've never been engaged. I'm only speaking from what I would do and what I want to do, what I desire to do when I get a husband. Like, that's what I want to do, right? That's what I have my eyes set on. I don't care what the atmosphere says. That's what I want to do. But I think we need more platforms and more people like sharing that, because right now you got reality TV, social media influencers really running the narrative on like what is acceptable in a relationship, right? Oh, so-and-so just bought somebody a property, or so-and-so just bought somebody a car. Okay, well, what about for the regular people, right? Ain't nobody out here buying no plots of land. So what can we do to show that we care, right? It's going to be small stuff, small things like listening. Very simple. It's free. Do it, right? And women want someone who cares about their needs, right? So, but the narrative isn't that. The narrative is women just need to accept how we are. They need to conform. They need to do blah, blah, blah. Well, men can do some changing too. So that's just where my stance is. It's all over the place, as y'all can see.
No, I think you hitting on some facts, and clearly, like, look, there's no one side that's solely to blame for the lack of marriages, especially if we think about what's taking place in the Black community, right? So I would be, biased if I sat in here and said it all sits on the side of Black women, right? There's work that we need to do. There's men out here doing things that, are damaging to relationships. So, we definitely need to come to the table, and meet each other at a place, right? And talk through things. So I love that. And I'm all about it. Didn't work out in my marriage, but I'm all about it, and listen, life happens. And I'm able to joke about it. And, but yeah, it's so funny. David is on your side. Come on, Dave. I can't keep up with you either. He says, we're not whining and dining women after, we got the, what. So I said we like consistency, not saying that we're giving the things that we did. We just like the consistency in the relationship, but I hear you. We both need to work on consistency. So I'm gonna take your feedback and your lesson there that you showed me.
Okay, I appreciate it. There we go. Give and take, give and take.
Yes, yes, yes. So, next question. So, if you think those things come along with a relationship, when you think about why you haven't found that right person, why would you say you don't think you found that right person? Is it because you haven't met them, or is it because the people that perhaps you have met in your past, they weren't giving those things that you thought you needed?
Well, for me, I don't think time has been on my side. I think, they say timing is everything. It just wasn't the right time. Like, for example, it was, one guy, I was interested in him. He had a girlfriend. Then when he didn't have a girlfriend, I was dating somebody. So we never really got to like really see what it was like to be in a relationship. It was just always great chemistry. Never popped off. Interested in one guy, but I met him too late, I feel like, because moving away, distance. I've never been in a long distance relationship, so that was a thing. And then again, just timing isn't right. If I'm in a different place of growth, or I've developed to a certain place, and the other person isn't quite there yet, the timing just doesn't work. And maybe down the line he's there, but then I'm just mentally. So I've met some really great people along the way, but the timing was just bad. And I'm not about wasting people's time. Obviously, I gave it a chance, but yeah, it just didn't work out.
So Crystal agrees with me, and in all caps. Thank you, Crystal. Thank you, thank you. Yes, women. What do you think about that?
More women need to hear what the men think. I feel like there's enough of that out here on YouTube already. The men are talking like a lot, and whether or not it's true, they're all sounding the same. They're all like kind of like preaching the same message. So I feel like I've heard enough from it to where I feel like the women need to kind of like start having conversations about their experiences, because it's not talked about.
So you think there's more men talking about what they want in relationships than women? And you
Actually, you okay, your sentence was great. What they want in relationships, they don't talk about. But what they feel women should be is what they talk about. How women should show up is what they talk about. And I kind of see that as one and the same. If you're saying women need to show up as X, Y, and Z, perhaps that's what you're looking for. In turn, that's what you need. Why preach a message to women or about women if that's not what they're looking for or what they need? You get what I'm saying? I hope I articulated that, but I heard what you said, and I'm like, well, no, they're not necessarily saying like this is what we need, but they're saying this is how you should be. So I'm just like, why are you telling me this is how I need to show up if this is not something you desire? So I hope I didn't confuse the people, but
no, I hear you. You're I think what I'm hearing is you're and correct me if I'm wrong. You're talking about the manosphere spaces where men say the women should be fit, feminine, and friendly, and in that space. And I get that, but I don't know. I just feel like when I think of that, and listen, I used to be an avid Kevin Samuels, follower. I, watch his videos and subscribe to his channel probably within the last, 8 months or what have you, 8 to 10 months span. So he definitely says things that I feel like have value and are representative of some of men's experiences in relationships. However, I don't know if it's just that cookie cutter for every man. Like, I don't think everything that he's saying is exactly the way every man feels and how they go about and explore the dating / marriage relationship experience. Right. And I think sometimes the manosphere space can also be extreme. Like there's other elements of it, like you got alpha male strategies, and where he goes in and he's not even about marriage. So I think there's so many different, and then you have other people who, then there's like that's like red pill. You got people like, Abba and Preach, who are somewhere in there, but not so much. And that's why I think there's room for everybody. But all these people that we're talking about, for the most part, they've risen to prominence within the last, let's say, year or two at the most, but nothing longer than that. Prior to that, what we as men heard, whether it was from TV, absent YouTube, was all about women, whether it was Oprah Winfrey or any of the talk show hosts or anything that we turned on TV. It was like, this is what women want. This is what women need. The crisis of, the black man's crisis, so we kind of started to hear that. And I think it's just new that you're hearing more men's thoughts. My long-winded way of kind of getting to it.
Yeah. I mean, I think, so that's what I was alluding to, was just this whole, and I think I saw a comment, was it D or something like that? She said that's what she hears more from the men, like what kind of women they want. I think I would like to hear more from like men about like how they feel. Perhaps that's what you're saying. What are men feeling, right? Not
and I think
not echo chamber.
Exactly. And I think from a nuanced perspective, because just like sometimes I might generalize and say every woman, and then I have to correct myself and say some, right? And I think that's the same for that space. That represents a portion of men, but it's not all of us, right? Because there's some nuances in between. Some of us may be spot on and like, yep, that's me. I take it just like that. Give me fit, feminine, and friendly. Shut up and make me a sandwich, and I'm good. But that's not every man. That's not me. That's not my perspective. I don't think that would make me happy because, honestly, I'm a guy that likes to talk. I like to think. And if I'm going to be married to somebody, I want a partner that's going to be able to do that with me. And we could do that together, and I could hear her ideas and be open to those. So I think that extreme is kind of, it just makes your relationship so rigid. And I don't want a rigid relationship because I don't think that's fun. I don't think that's long lasting. Yeah. So
I agree.
And we don't hear about that. We just hear the extreme. And sometimes what happens too is if you say a little bit about what the extreme says, then you get lumped up into that. Right. So that's the other part.
Yeah.
So I flipped it on you a little bit.
Yeah. I hear you. I do. I mean,
you're still not buying it?
No, I'm not. It's a mixed bag. Right? It's a mixed bag. I think that the messages that are out there, but yeah, I think there are a lot of men who believe that, like you and black male media, like that narrative doesn't fit me. But because there's so many, because that platform, which you just named, and there's so many people that do agree to that, it kind of like silences the voices of the men who don't, ascribe to that. You know what I mean?
I hear you.
It muffles the voices, right?
All right.
It's hard to hear.
I hear you. Well, listen, your platform, Kevin Samuels popped on there many a day. Anton is also very close with, Kevin Samuels in that regard. So how, and you obviously have respect for him. So I are you saying you don't like anybody that thinks that way, or you just feel like that's what you hear the most?
I mean, I listen to Kevin Samuels, and some of the stuff he be saying, I'd be like, he right. We need to get in the gym. Okay, we need to stop wearing bonnets in public, and we need to stop thinking that our degrees are going to save us. Like, there are some things that I totally agree with, and I'm a person with 2 degrees, so if it's anybody, go ahead and hit that little button. I'm a PhD. Like, I would probably be like, you know what I'm saying? But like, I agree with him in some cases. So I'm not a Kevin Samuels hater, because I'm like, he's speaking facts. But to the other side, men, just be honest. Like, if that's what you want, then that's what you want. But don't flip flop. Because prime example, right? Being on the LaPie show, right? If the question was something a random question, right? And I answer a certain way. She automatically for the streets. Oh, she for the streets. Okay. But a woman can, like, put on a nice shirt, the boobs sit up here, and oh, she not for the street. She's sexy. Ooh, that's what I need. It's like, come on. If you're gonna, agree with a message, just stick with it, okay? But the men, I think, like, they can't choose. It's different. It's different. So that's why I'm like, I don't know what y'all want. So maybe it needs to. And I've seen some panels of just all men, but it seems to be like they're men that all think the same. So I want to see a panel where they actually want fit, feminine, and what was that one? Fit, feminine, friendly. I want to see somebody who wants that versus I just want someone who is kind, who's respectful, that those kind of things, right? I want to see them on a panel together to really see what happens from it. But every time I see a man's panel, like, they all think the same. I don't get a variety.
Okay. So we're gonna help you with that. Crystal Lynette does some great men's panels. Oh, nice. So she has a YouTube channel, and she's out here. I've been on a couple of different panels with her, and you do get a good cross section of men with different opinions up there, and different perspectives. So check out Crystal. I think she has something coming up this weekend. That she's going to have a few of us up on there. I would say, and this is just from my own experience too, because I know we both been on panels, which is another reason why I loved, us getting together and talk about that panel experience. I too have gotten that same flack from women when I'll say something and they'll love it because I'm like, I'll be calling out a dude and I'll say, I'll hold the guy accountable if he moved mad or did something wrong. But when I say something against a woman, or I say something that I'm, holding a woman accountable, then that's when I get the Kelsey Samuels, Kevin Samuels. They start throwing red pills up in the chat. I'm like, whoa, not even in a different day, the same conversation. They swing that pendulum from left to right. So I think, just like you told me earlier, I don't know if it's a man thing. I think it's just maybe a people thing, a human being thing, where when we like what we hear, we like the person. And when we don't like what we hear, sometimes And the other thing, like, and I know men do this too, but my experience, especially being on certain platforms where they are women focused and women supportive, the women will call a man a name in a second. He'll be Dusty before you know it. He's Dusty. Now, what? The brother has a job. Matter of fact, this most recent, I know you haven't seen the whole thing or you're not caught up, but Married at First Sight, right? So there's a firefighter on there. His name is Gil, but he's with a woman.
Oh, yeah, I know about that one. Yeah.
Okay, so they just dragging his name through the streets, calling that brother Dusty. Now, he is a firefighter, has taken care of himself, has his own place.
He even get his eyebrows arched. He's
See? Why you got to do that, Lord? What you say?
That man just, he get his eyebrows arched. He keeps himself well.
Why you got to do him like that? Why you got to do?
I respect Gil. You know what I'm saying? I think he's great.
Too funny. So somebody else asked, and Lucky, she's gonna get in this. She wants to get at me. I can just tell. I see exclamation marks on the screen. Next time we chop it up, maybe we'll do it. We'll either do it on your channel, maybe, or we'll even have you and Lucky over here, because I would love to talk to you guys too together. But
you got to come over. We'll grill you.
I saw y'all grill one of them brothers, but I don't think he was prepared for the conversation. Like, listen, no shade to that brother. I don't remember his name, and I don't need to call him out, but he's not, he's not a conversationalist like your boy. Like, I think I can handle it. I think I can handle myself. And I think it would be fun. I also think the both of you together would really challenge me, because, you did press me a little bit. I'll give you that. You pressed me, and I don't back down that easy, but you press me, so respect to you. So another topic, since we're on maths, Michael, don't start no trouble talking about Big Shirley. Please, please don't upset my chat. Please don't upset it. Don't overtalk me. All the all the Kevin Samuels lines. But
Yeah.
somebody was asking, and this has come up, and this is something like I'm a dog with a bone when it comes to this, right? So the whole Michaela Zach narrative that's playing out, and I don't know if you've caught wind of what's happening on social media, but this woman is coming off as very abusive, little could be mental health. I'm not a doctor, I'm not a clinician, but her mental health is looking like it's a little unstable. So what do you feel about a woman abusing a man? What are your thoughts on that? Do you think it can happen? Do you think it's a real thing? Do you think it needs to be like the man needs to do everything right in the scenario? What are your thoughts?
No, I definitely, women, can, emotionally and mentally abuse men. Absolutely. I'm to the point where I can tell when a man has been like literally wounded by a woman, by how he maybe talks to women, or like how he shows up. And I questioned one person before, and I was like, have you been like has have you been verbally abused by someone in your past? Like, did they talk like trash to you? And he was like, well, yeah, but I don't stand for that no more. And I'm like, well, I can tell, because usually a man who has been hurt by a woman bites back. Like, and it's just like, whoa, like, calm down, like that kind of thing. So I do think it happens. How can men avoid it? I can't really say, and I can't really say, because one, love can make you do crazy things. You can be blind to certain things, right? Um, you can stay in situations longer than, it's just like a woman being in an abusive relationship. Men can do the same. There are emotional men out there, which is fine. So yeah, in terms of the Zach and Michaela thing, I definitely see the signs that Michaela is unstable, whether it's mental health or whether it's unresolved trauma. Like, I know she lost her dad. I know that she has been in relationships that didn't work. I also know the impacts of like not having your dad around. I forget what age she was when he passed away, but when you're trying to fill a void, especially a void of your father, you do, or and you can go do things that you are not proud of, right? I understand that, but if you don't address it, it can like really manifest on its own, in a way that can be uncontrollable if it goes undetected or untreated for a period of time. Now, in regards to Zach, I do feel like when you are dealing with someone who is unstable, you have to be more direct than you would dealing with somebody else. So that one scene where they were talking and she kind of blew up, like I watched clips. I don't be watching the whole episode because I be having stuff to do. But the one thing, I think he should have been direct. Like, look, come decision day, I'm going to say no. I'm not sleeping in the room with you. I probably never will. And like, let this be it, period. But he was given like open things, like, well, if we're not married, we can still hang out and I still want to be your friend, all maybe to protect her feelings. But he shouldn't have done that. Like, you just need to be direct. And
Mm-hmm.
so I understand trying to be trying to handle with care, and someone who's unstable, but that's not always wise.
I got you. So you mentioned that scene, and that's part of the scenes and things that we get into debates with sometimes. Do you think what he did in that moment, one, triggered Michaela to behave the way that she behaved, or two, warranted the treatment that he was getting from her?
mm, I never think that there's like nothing should get someone to a point of a blow up like that, regardless of how he has been treated or she's been treated or vice versa. You should never blow up at anybody like that, where you kicking over tables, running over people, breaking stuff. Like, no. So I don't think it was warranted, no. And even if he deserved it or she just, no. to that end, he just should have been more direct. Like
Yeah.
I said, he was just like, and I think she probably got fed up because again, it goes back to that point that men say one thing and do another. If you say you don't want to be with me, why are you still trying to mess with me? Like, why are you still trying to hang out? If you don't like me, why are you still trying to go to dinner with me? Like, just stop. Just stop all communication. Delete my number. Yes, I'm gonna be hurt. Yes, I'm gonna cry, but I'm gonna be okay. Like, just stop. And I think she probably got fed up from maybe experiencing that in the past, maybe being strung along. Who knows? But I would never give her a pass to be like, well, you got to understand what she's been through. I would never do nothing like that. You just should never blow up like that.
Okay, I can hear what you're saying, and I like that because that implies accountability.
Mm-hmm.
And some of the things that I've been hotly debating, and I even have a video up on my channel around gaslighting because, that was the talking point across some of the YouTube waves is that Zach was gaslighting Michaela and getting her to that point of a blow up. So I
see that. Still,
mm-hmm.
he's wrong and she's wrong. I really loathe gaslighters.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's definitely a skill like that you've clearly worked on, like it's been perfected over time.
Mm-hmm.
But it's a terrible skill to have. If you're a gaslighter, please try to find another hobby or thing to get into because gaslighting isn't it. But yeah, like I said, the way he talked,
Mm-hmm.
that wasn't cool at all. But again, like, just because he talked to you like that don't mean you gotta act a certain way. You could literally look at this dude while he's talking, and when he's done, be like, thanks, and you can walk out. Like, protect your time, your energy, and invest that in something else. Be like my man's I forget his name, and just start a little Hinge account or whatever, Tinder account. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, Ryan.
Be like, all right, this what you want to do? I'm out, and go get laid somewhere if that's what you want to do. Since you want to sleep up with Zach all the time, go find you somebody else to sleep with. Not a good idea. Would not recommend. 0 out of 10. But if that's what you're trying to do, get your rocks off. Do what you got to do so you can get your energy back where it needs to be. But she could have used that energy in another way. He wasn't worth it at all.
I get you. I'm not going to press you because I know you didn't watch the full season. Yeah, so I won't press you. But I won't give you some of the smoke I've given some of the other ladies.
No, give me the smoke.
So listen, this is the thing that has transpired over the course of this episode, over the course of the season, is she, in many ways and forms, has lied about who she is. She has manipulated facts also. So I'll give you an example. On wedding day, she was with his parents and they were talking about relationships, and he comes from, a cookie cutter, all American kind of family. Mm-hmm. Good upbringing. Both his parents are educated. I think somebody's an attorney, somebody's a doctor, one of both of the parents. So long story short, she talked about not having heated verbal arguments because she knew that growing up, she saw that and she didn't want to do those things in her relationships. So she didn't want to act out in that way. Then only to have their first argument when he went to go take his dog to doggy daycare, wherever he went to walk the dog, he wasn't there and she flipped out in the apartment. Then they had a conversation about how to handle arguments as a couple. And she was like, no, I don't walk away. I don't walk out. I don't leave the scene because I feel like that's emotional abuse. The first time she got upset, what did she do? She packed up her bags and she left the apartment, right? So at the end of the day, she is saying things that she won't do, calling out the behavior and then enacting it. So that's the part where I have a hard time letting go of the fact that him being double-minded is part and parcel equivalent to what she's doing. Like, I struggle with that. And then the whole time when they had that scene in the bed, she told him to leave. She was like, if whatever, she was like, well, then go. Mm-hmm. She said, go. Mm-hmm. She told him to leave. And he was like, are you sure? Are you sure? I'm telling you, I don't want to leave. She's like, no, go. That black girl, like, just shut up. Get the hell out. That's what she told him. He checked a couple of times in. And then somewhere towards the end of the back and forth, she was like, oh, I'm confused. I didn't understand what you're saying. Oh, really? We're on camera. So everything is rolled back. She picked up the phone. She called her sister. The sister is like, what's going on? He was like, I told her I would take her home. And she was like, I don't need a ride home. You know, all of these antics. Finally, he's like, you know what? My head hurts because I can't keep up. I'm out. Then she ensue her following, calling him names, cussing him out, pushing him on the bed. So that's why I have a hard time saying, like, this woman can do all this if the roles were flipped and that was the man acting out in this way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like I said, when I first started out, I think Michaela is like, there's something not connecting, right? There's one thing that I want to note is like she grew up seeing things like this in her home, right? And so to the same point of someone saying, I grew up in a really, hostile environment and experienced divorce. I don't want to be divorced. And then I'm sure there are statistics that show, if you come from a divorced household, the likeliness of you getting divorced is higher than those that have not grown up in a divorced household. For her, I've experienced this in my home. I don't want this to manifest in my own relationship. So, in her mind, she's like, I'm really trying to fight against the forces, blah, 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 blah. But because it's in her, right, depending on how long she's seen it, it's going to come up unless it's been addressed, right? Yeah. And they called it at the beginning that her sisters were so overprotective of her, right? Like, we guard her. Nobody can mess with Michaela. This is our little Michaela, blah, blah, blah. Like, they coddled her. So how would you expect her to grow if she's been coddled? Yeah. That's how I know she hasn't dealt with I don't want to call them demons, but the demons that are in her. The issues that are in her because they coddled her. It's like, we're going to protect you. Well, the only way you can address it is if you either go to therapy, or you're in a situation in which, like this one, I guarantee you she in therapy right now because she's getting roasted on all these platforms and she's getting to watch herself back on television. But this is probably the first and only time that she's seen herself. When you go to therapy, it's like putting a mirror up to you and really getting the questions and really getting down to the root of what it is wrong with you at the core. Again, nobody's challenged her on that. She's getting challenged now. And I'm sure she pissed about it because everybody's talking about it. I'm only saying that to say I'm not surprised, right? So I don't fault Zach for being the way he is. Like I said, in that one scene, he should have been more direct. But over time, because, I understand him saying, I can't deal with this no more. For her, I think it was impossible for her in the moment to see how her words did not match her actions. Because in her mind, I'm fighting against the forces inside of me. I'm trying not to be like my mom and dad. I'm trying not to do this, but he's provoking me. Like, there's no one trying to tell her, like, Michaela, this is what you did. That's what a therapist would do, or that's what a counselor would do. But she ain't got that. So, yeah, I think I just wanted to kind of go back from the very beginning when I knew it was going to be trouble, when her sisters were like, we got her back. We make sure she good. Blah, 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 blah. Right. So yeah, it was bound to be a failure. I mean, I think everybody was like rooting for them because of the previous seasons and how successful the other Black couples were. It was one of those, we rooting for everybody Black because, Will and Will, I forget the rest of them. Is it Will? His name was Miles and
Miles and Karen.
Miles, Karen, and Woody and Imani. Like, because they were so successful, when it came to the other season, it's like, all right, let's keep this trend going. We're on a good trend. And I think Zach and Michaela were held to a higher standard, even with Brianna and Vincent. Right? You had a good track record of Black couples lasting, and now you had Zach and Michaela, and they were put on a pedestal. So I don't think that they, were kind of given a fair chance. Not when I say fair, I don't think they were given a blank slate. I think they were automatically placed up here. It's like, yes, another quality Black couple. Let's go. We're on a roll.
Mm-hmm.
That's not the case.
I hear you. No, I definitely, I think and agree that Michaela does need some help, and that her family did not hold her accountable. They gave her that cutesy term, Hurricane K, which at the end of the day was just a way to put frosting over cake that wasn't baked. You know what I mean? She needed to get the help, and don't cuten up the term. If she's acting out erratically and wild like that, she needs to be helped. I think the thing for some of us men that are seeing it is like she needs to just be accountable, and that accountability piece is frustrating when we don't it's not called out for what it is, right? Because I don't think any man could handle her in a right way, because that's also the narrative. Zach's too sensitive, blah 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 blah. And again, I ragged him a little bit for the tears in the very beginning. I ragged him a lot. I won't even minimize it for the tears and
That
the acting out. Yeah, I guess he was crying before they even got to the wedding. He was crying with his brothers, crying at the idea of marriage. He's a very sensitive kind of guy.
wait, were you like roasting him because he was crying?
Yeah, I thought it was too much.
Oh
I
my
thought
gosh.
Yeah, I thought it was too much because I thought it was time and place. Like, it's nothing wrong with crying, but it's time and season. And for me, that was an indicator of how you're going to deal with life stresses. And if the simple thing is the thought of marrying somebody who you've never even met before has you bursting out in tears, to me, I don't think you're going to be able to manage your emotions effectively as a man, right? I think, like, at the end of the day, that's one of the things that I saw. And again, I don't think there's anything necessarily wrong with crying. However, if you are bawling out in those moments for certain things, it just makes me question it. And here we are now, where he's faced with challenging situations with Michaela, and he's struggling on how to deal with it. And that, to me, is an indicator of the fact that he doesn't have a good stronghold on his emotions, because he is not in tune. He can't, just like how you clearly said, if he doesn't want to be with her, he shouldn't be with her. The people pleaser, the sensitive, sweet guy in him, the emotional guy, wants to make it all nice. And that's
But
why he keeps going back to her.
would you consider that Michaela is an extreme case, like when you think of a woman,
Mm-hmm.
right? The characteristics and the behaviors of Michaela is not one that you would describe. Like her behavior and characteristics don't come up immediately, right? So I think that he did and does, he's a great looking guy, have experience being in relationships, right? But not a relationship or even a person of that magnitude, right? I think she's a lot. Like, she's a
Mm-hmm.
lot. So I can understand him like being frustrated with not being able to understand her and maybe manage her in a way, right? Because like men are like, I'm the leader, I'm the head of this household, like I'm supposed to kind of show you the way, and it could be his frustration. Yes, lunch with Lauren tomorrow. But it could have been his like frustration that
Mm-hmm.
got him to that emotional state. I honestly won't fault him for getting too emotional when it came to Michaela, because how like men need to let their emotions out in like anyway. Like, and I each man lets them out in a different ways. Some men go work out, some men just close the door and shut the lights out, just don't talk to me for like an hour, I just need to relax, I don't want to talk to nobody. And some men communicate. I feel like Zach is a communicator when it comes to issues, and the fact that he could not communicate with Michaela frustrated him. He seems like a talker. I want to talk out my feelings, right? And because he couldn't do that with her, it was frustrating for him, and he was like at a rock and a hard place. Unfortunately, perhaps because he grew up in a two-parent household that was loving, he has not had to deal with or probably hasn't seen conflict like that. There's just not enough experience. And I think now is making sense why the question is always asked when you are dating: how many relationships have you been in, like, and what has been the time frame? Because to a certain extent, when you're dealing with someone like Michaela, maybe experience does matter. Like, how do you react to certain personalities? So, I mean, I wouldn't fault him at crying because some people cry because they're frustrated and they don't know how else to communicate if you've tried all other measures of communication.
So you're kind of proving my point in that
Fine.
Michaela is the primary issue in this relationship,
Yeah,
and
I
there's
said she
nothing,
was. Yeah.
and there's nothing that she could do to, nothing that he could do to make it any better. But the
Yeah.
tears, funny enough, I mean, there were moments where he did cry when they had arguments, but the tears for him were at the very, very beginning. They were the very, very beginning before they even got married. He was crying just out of
But he
excitement.
was happy.
See, and this is why sometimes we say, ladies, you don't listen to us, because that that is not the normal range. And again, every man has a range of, of where they are on the emotional scale, right? Some men are hard stance, like I'm not crying unless it's a funeral. Some men will cry if they drop a glass and they think they're going to disappoint you. And then there's folks that are in the middle that might cry, but won't do it, in front of other people or out in public, time and season. Zach is a crier just for crying.
Ron, did you cry when you got married?
I did.
Okay,
But
that's what he
but
did.
Lauren, he was crying before he even met this woman. And I knew my wife for years before we got married. So there was a reason for me to shed a tear, and he was falling out crying. He was like, did you see him?
I saw the first episode. Y'all are not letting this man live. I honestly, okay, I would have been like, yo, this is extreme. But I would, to a certain extent, like, dang, that's kind of like, I thank you for adoring me in that way. And then I'll question him about it, like, so what makes you cry? Like, I would ask him, like, maybe they didn't put that on camera, but Michaela should have asked if she didn't, like, are you an easy crier? Because some people are criers.
See, Tiffany said he needs to man up.
See, I don't think that he's less of a man because he cried easily. Like, I know there's nothing wrong with crying, but the fact that he cried easily is not a red flag to me.
So this is what we went into when we tried to talk about his crying early on, and what we as men saw being men and knowing how we process emotions indicated as a sign. It's someone that is easily emotional, right? So when you're emotional, when you're crying, it takes energy out of you. You are not in a clear, like, I'm not just talking about, a tear drops at my eye because I see something sad, right? I'm talking about when you are full blown in a crying moment, like he was, you're out of sorts. So you have lost composure in a sense. And if it's that easy for you, just at the mere thought, not seeing her, but just before he got there, he was hugging and crying in a circle with his brothers on the way to the wedding venue. Like, if that's how you react, that means you are on this side of emotional. So when you get faced with a challenging situation that presses your buttons, how are you going to react? On the extremer side of the emotional part, which is why now, fast forward to when they're in these tough situations that are very difficult, and Michaela is on the extreme end, and I acknowledge that for sure, is why you see the behavior that you see, because you're dealing with a man that is emotional. So when he gets upset, when he is pushed, he's going to act more emotional.
Do you want to know why I'm a little bit more accepting of his crying? Because it's refreshing. There are so many men that I've come across who shows little to no emotion. And the fact that he cries means there's a living human being in his body. And I know you're like, what? That doesn't make sense. But I would prefer a man that shows emotion versus a man that does not show emotion at all. And while, yes, perhaps his emotion may be a little bit extreme to some, it's all a matter. He just may not be your type. Now, would I date Zach? I might give him a time of day. Would it work out? I'm not sure, because it would be dependent on how he handles situation. Does Lauren like a sensitive man? I would like for him to be sensitive. Yes. Sensitive to my needs. No, I'm saying no, but yes, sensitive for sure. Like I do want somebody that, if they're hurt, they will communicate that they're hurt, right? I want somebody that knows how to communicate, whether that's verbally, or if it's like, days go by and I see that his mood is impacted. Like, clearly you're showing emotion in a different way. Like, what's going on? Like, so I'm okay with a sensitive man. There's nothing wrong with it. There's nothing wrong with it to me. I don't think a man is any less of a man if he cries. Let me just say that. Just because you cry does not mean you're not a manly man. It doesn't mean that you're not capable of making decisions. It also does not mean that you are not able to provide or protect me. I don't think that Zach will cry in front of a man that disrespects me. Now, if he does, then that's going to be an issue. But if we're in our home and we're having a conversation and something touches him, like, within the conversation, and he sheds a tear, I'm okay. If we're watching a movie and it's actually sad and he cries and I'm crying too, I'm okay. What I will be concerned about is if I'm out and something happens and he's unable to stand up for me, and then I feel like I'm not protected, or I don't feel like I can be safe around him, then it becomes an issue. But I'm not gonna fault this man for being emotional. Not at all.
Okay.
His tears doesn't mean that he can't be a man. And when I say,
I'm not saying he can't be a man. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that he is an emotional man. That's what I'm saying. Or more on the extreme end. Because listen, I'm calling out his behavior, but I'm also saying that I'm a man that has cried too. But not to the extent and in the moments where Zach has cried. And I think from what I see, it's a barometer on how he handles stress, right? So he can't handle his emotional, the way he's able to control his emotions is on the, I don't want to say weaker. It's not the word I want to say. But he does not.
Do you think he shows feminine ways?
I don't like getting caught up in that because
I'm not gonna go deep.
No, but I understand what you're saying, and if I were to say, I can say yes to it, but I just don't want to. I don't want to boil it down to masculine, feminine. I just want to say like he can't regulate his emotions, right? And yes, traditionally, what we understand in our concept of who it's okay to cry and be emotional is women, right? But I would too be annoyed if a woman was shedding tears left, right, and center over things. Like, I get it. You're going to cry when you're sad. You're going to cry if you have a bad day or things don't go the way you think. And sometimes women will cry and get emotional in those moments. I get it. But if you're shedding tears every time something doesn't go wrong, that gets frustrating because it's like, come on, let's pull it together. Right. And I get it. Some people are more sensitive than others, and some people are going to cry more than others. But when I see that even more so in a guy, it's like I just have less tolerance. And to me, I think it more so means he doesn't have control over his emotions. I'm learning to get out of the masculine feminine because then that's just going to be triggering. I don't know this guy enough to say what he is or what he isn't. But I do know that a man that has control over his emotions usually can handle heated situations, whether it's in life, in work, in various scenarios.
Yeah. Yep, you're right. You're right. Yeah. I'm laughing at Monique's comment.
What did she say?
Well, I can still hear him whining. I'm okay, guys. Please just let me
leave. Just let me leave, right? So Tiffany's a tough cookie. Tiffany and Lucky are similar in some regards. But she was like, he need to man up. But again, I'm not going that far. I don't want to do that to him. I don't know him enough to like punch that hard. I used to like go after people like that, but being in these YouTube streets, having some real conversations with people that I've actually talked about, puts things into perspective.
I'm going back to what I said at the beginning when I first got on here is like, I'm willing to try something once, right? I personally have not dated someone who cries at the drop of a dime.
Yes.
I'm not going to say I won't. If I do and it doesn't work out, then I can say it can never be me. But I haven't. And I also feel like, that's not too bad of a quality. It's actually better than not having emotions or showing emotion at all. So I'll say, like, would I date Zach if he was single and I saw him? Yeah, I'll date him. And if it don't work out, it don't work out. And then I could say for a fact, a man who can't control his emotions is like, because I feel like I did date somebody one time, and I feel like he was more emotional, and not to the exact end where he was crying, but it was just like, this is how I feel kind of thing. And I didn't get annoyed by it. I'm trying to like think back because it was so long ago, but I don't think I was annoyed by it. I was just like, this is different because not a lot of men do it.
Okay. I hear you. And I think that sometimes it can, as a man, knowing men and knowing how we move and operate, I think you got to regulate those things because it shows up in your communication. It shows up in how you make decisions, right? And you talked about decision making being something that's an important priority for you. And a man like that who is emotional is not as decisive. And you pointed out that he was very indecisive, even in being able to point out the fact that he should just move on from Michaela and not try to like be Mr. Nice Guy in that moment. So I think for me, those are things that you need to work on so that you are better equipped when you're faced with situations like that. So you can just say like, oh, shucks, I'm good on that. I'll be over here in the good hotel because I know it's a show and I can't leave, but you stay over there, ma'am. I'm good. I see the energy. The energy is, you got that. I'm not even going to try to manage it because it's unmanageable. You know what I mean? Like a guy with clearer, like you see somebody flip out that quick. You just met them in 2 weeks and they tearing up stuff, going off at you, canceling events. It's like, yeah. But the emotional side of him wanted to be married so badly, wanted to have that love that he saw all of his brothers and his brothers have. His mom, his parents, being coddled, he was coddled, so.
And I see why the experts match both of them together because both of them were coddled, but in different ways.
Yeah. Yeah. And also for ratings, because, we're going to get,
Yeah. I mean, but I think I can see, like, so for example, Michaela was coddled in that, act out, do what you need to do. It's okay. We understand. Right. Zach was coddled in a, more, it's okay. It's okay to cry. Show your emotion, kind of thing, like a true depiction of coddling. So, yeah, I think, yeah. I'm with you. I'm with you. So
Lucky is throwing up exclamation points. What's she trying to say?
No, that she's saying probably red flag maybe of what I'm saying. I don't know if she just got back in here, but yeah, she's not trying to date no man that cry. I'll tell you that right now.
I kind of got that sense, and again, I don't want to pretend like I know her, but I got the sense that her and Tiffany would they would be aces in real life because Tiffany don't play either, and Linda, who's showing up as the salsa, she don't play either. So they want a man's man. They want you to be strong, communicate, talk, do all that good stuff. But the emotionalism and the wishy-washy, gonna get you run over like a truck.
Yeah.
So I think we done exhausted our whole maths.
Yeah. Hopefully next season they get it right.
What'd you say?
Hopefully next season they get it right.
I doubt it. You know why? Because last season was their most highly rated season. With all the Chris and the Paige and all that other drama. And then pretty much who's left married? Bree and Vincent. And last season was the first season I watched it, and that was because so many people in YouTube was like, "You gotta watch the show. You gotta watch the show."
You haven't. You gotta go back and watch season 9, New Orleans.
Okay.
That's honestly the best one. And then I think it's season 8 with Iris and I forget his name, but last name is Man. I think his name is. But you have to watch that one. Those are the ones.
Yeah, I definitely will do it and check them out because this season has me stressed out. I already feel like none of the couples are going to make it to decision day. Everybody has an issue, even the ones that almost seem like they're communicating. Looks like Gil and Mirla, they look like they're not gonna make it either. So I
Yeah.
don't even know. It's a wrap. So hopefully the relationships that you have next are not mirrors of this nonsense that we're seeing playing out. I thank you for delving into, your thoughts, your who you are. I appreciate the time that we spent here together. I feel
Yeah,
like,
it was
I got
fun.
some great insight into you.
Mhm.
So I really appreciate that. Anything before we head out tonight that you want to promote, talk about, have anybody check out?
Yes, please, everybody go subscribe to my channel. I think he said the link is in the description box. But subscribe to my channel and hit the notification bell. What you can expect from my channel, Lunch with Lauren interviews with different people, exploring different topics. And it's during the lunch hour, typically like between 12 and 2 sometimes. And then Fridays and Sundays is late night girl talk. Men are invited. Y'all can come too. But we bring ladies up and we kind of imagine being on the party line and listening in on a girl's conversation. And we'll bring guys up like toward the end to kind of like get their perspectives and hear from them. So that's really fun. We get into everything. And then Saturday is just fun, y'all. It's Shoot Your Shot, the dating show done our way. So we kind of like have a dating show where we bring a single up and we ask them questions about their dating life and what they're looking for. And then the people in the chat have the opportunity to shoot their shot. Super fun. And so we do mix it up. So ladies, if you want to shoot your shot at a guy, we'll have some men up on there. And for the fellas, we'll have some ladies up. So super fun time to spend your Saturday evenings if you're stuck in the house because it snowed or it's raining. Super fun. So hope y'all come join me. I'll be over here checking your content out too, Shawn. Just you gotta help you find a new show outside of Married at First Sight, at least until next season, because yes, they're exhausting. I was exhausted last season watching them, but I can see why the investment is there because it's who in their right mind would go through a process like that. But thanks for inviting me. This was fun.
No, thanks for coming aboard. I had a blast talking to you. And for everybody, please check out Lauren's channel. Great content. She gave a breakdown of all the things she has coming up. Reach out to her on IG. Hopefully, you'll see different little collabs with us. Maybe in the future. Maybe I'll be on Shoot Your Shot. You never know. I
Never
might make a
know.
guest appearance on there. So again, as everybody, this is the Unfiltered experience where we give our thoughts, perspectives on a wide array of topics. I appreciate everybody in the comments, all the love and support. And come back and like, share, subscribe for everybody who is a first-time visitor. Thank you all and have a good night.